3 grown men, 1 bedroom, bunk beds like a bunch of broke college kids. That was my first apartment in Los Angeles. That very first year that I moved in, I made $19,000. Not $19,000 a month, $19,000 for the year. And here's the part that's gonna sound a little strange. Every finance channel on this platform is gonna tell you to take whatever money you manage to save and put it into an index fund. I did the opposite. I took my savings and I spent it on ads, and that very decision is what allowed me to get to $10,000 a month in income. I'm gonna show you the exact numbers on that, including what it cost me and where it almost didn't work. I've bought liquor stores, I've flipped houses, I've owned rentals, and I've built businesses starting from nothing. And out of all of that, this is the path that I would take again if I was starting over tomorrow with nothing. I wanna be honest with you about something first. There's no trick, there's no formula, there's nothing that you can set up on a Sunday afternoon and start making $10,000 a month by next Friday. Anyone selling you that is selling you something. What there is a smart way, is a sequence that works that I actually use, and it took me from $19,000 a year to $10,000 a month. But it's going to require work, and it's going to require you to get better at things that you're currently bad at. That's the honest version. Let me walk you through it. Step 1 is to get a job. Any job. It's not your passion, it's not your career, and it's not the thing that you're gonna do for forever. Just what is the fastest way of getting money in every 2 weeks? Target, DoorDash, Uber Eats, it doesn't matter. It's probably gonna pay $15 to $20 an hour, and no, it's not the thing that's gonna make you rich. And that's fine. This isn't the thing that makes you money. This is the thing that funds the thing that makes you money. So think of it as the engine, not the destination. Step 2 is where most people quit, so pay attention here. $15 an hour, 40 hours a week after taxes comes out to around $2,000 a month. Your job now is to run a 10 to 20% surplus on that. $200 to $400 a month that never gets spent. And I know exactly what you're thinking because I lived it. On $2,000 a month in a real city, there is no surplus. I mean, rent alone eats up most of that money. So you get creative and you get uncomfortable. Roommates, move in with parents, move in with siblings. For me, it was 3 guys in a 1-bedroom apartment with bunk beds. And I want to be clear that I didn't love it. This wasn't some noble minimalist choice. It was the only way the math worked. But whatever it takes, find that 10 to 20%. Because the next step is the entire video and it doesn't work without it. So back to what I said at the start. Everybody's going to tell you to take that $400 a month and put it into an index fund. And I want to be fair about that advice because the math is real. $400 a month at a 10% return over 30 years is around $1 million. That's not nothing. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But look what you just signed up for. 30 years in the bunk bed, rice and beans in a shoebox apartment until you're 60 years old, just so you can be comfortable at the very end. I didn't want that. I wanted a decent place, a decent car, and to travel when I was still young enough to be able to enjoy it. So if you're making under $100,000 a year, I don't think you should invest any of that surplus. You should be spending it on making yourself earn more because your investments have a ceiling, 10% roughly, and there's really not much you can do about it. Your income doesn't have one. It's the only number in your financial life that you have direct control over. I'm not just gonna say that and move on. Let me show you what I actually did. So what do you actually point the money at? A service-based business. And it's not because there's some magic to a service-based business. It's that everything else that I've done since would have killed me at that stage. The liquor store was 6 figures before I ever opened the doors, and that was the business plus the inventory that was sitting in it. A house flip can run $50,000 to even $100,000 in renovations, not to mention holding costs, which keep adding up whether you sell the thing or not. And rentals can sound passive right until the point where the HVAC system goes up and then you're writing a check for $5,000 to $10,000 without any warning. Don't get me wrong, all of those can work. I've made money on every single one of those. But every one of those requires you to have cash behind you already. And if you don't, they don't just fail, they can sometimes bankrupt you. A service business, you can start this week and the only thing you're risking is your time. Now, one thing that matters more in 2026 than when I started, pick something that AI can't do. So that means physical work, lawn care, cleaning, home services, anything that requires someone to physically show up for it. Or it can mean human trust work, coaching, consulting, sales, anything where the product is actually someone believing in you. Now, the stuff that used to be a really safe recommendation, writing, design, basic online services, that's the stuff that AI is quickly starting to take over. So don't start there. Now, for me, the answer was fitness and life coaching. I had the skill, I had the passion, and it was the one thing that I could sell without needing $1 of inventory. Now, before any of it actually worked, I had tried high-ticket coaching twice, failed both times. That was the advice that everybody had given me. Charge premium from day one and don't undervalue yourself. And they weren't wrong about high ticket. I just wasn't ready for it. I couldn't ask somebody for that kind of money and actually mean it. I had never coached anybody before, and I had no idea how to put an offer together. So I went the complete other direction. $50 to $55 an hour, in-person sessions, undercutting everybody else on purpose. I had no social proof, I had no results to point to, and the thing I needed way more than money itself was actual reps. And then what happened was my schedule started filling up. So I went to 65, then my schedule filled up again, I went to 75, and then eventually $100 a session. But here's the thing that I never did. I never raised the price on somebody who was actually with me already. My first client stayed at 55 until they left. And as they fell off, I would replace them at a higher number. So the average kept going up over time, and I never really had to have an awkward conversation about pricing. But the trade-off to that is that the build is very slow. If a third of your people are on that old pricing, you're carrying that for months. You're essentially trading speed for never losing anybody. Now, I'd personally make that trade again, but just understand the trade-offs. That's also why that my top rate and my average rate were two different numbers. I was charging up to $100 a session, but my average was 60 to 70. Most people online will quote you their high-end range, but the average is what's gonna pay your rent. About 4 to 6 months in, I was making $2,000 to $2,500 a week. 6 to 8 sessions a day on the busy ones, 6 days a week. Now on paper, 6 sessions a day at $75 comes out to $2,700 a week. But I never really hit the paper number because clients end up canceling and you can't stack sessions back to back when you're driving between them in Los Angeles. And this brings me to what actually happened. I hit $10,000 a month doing in-person sessions. I finally got there. But it cost me 12 to 14 hours a day, almost every day, sitting in traffic, putting miles on my car. And so I want to say this very clearly because most videos on this number are not. Hitting $10,000 a month is not the hard part. Sustaining it is. I found the ceiling, and the ceiling wasn't the money, it was the hours. I had run out of the one thing that I was actually selling, which was my time. So I moved everything online. Going online is where the offer finally got good. 90-day program, $1,800 to $2,000, guaranteed result. Lose 12 to 24 pounds of fat loss. And if they didn't get there, I kept working with them for free until they did. That guarantee is the whole thing. I took the risk off of the client and put it onto myself, and that was why I was able to charge what I did. So now let's talk about the ad math, which is the proof for everything I said in step 3. So when I started, I was spending a couple $100s a week on ads. It was not much better than break even at first, but one client who stuck around paid for the week. But I only ever raised the ad spend when the return justified it. That's the discipline. Not spend more to grow, spend more when the numbers already work. Now, by the time everything matured, I was spending about $450 a week, but I was getting $3,000 to $5,000 a week in closings. One caveat, because I want these numbers to be honest and truthful. Most people paid in full, call it about 2/3. The rest were on 2 to 3 month installment plans. So the money that I collected every month wasn't exactly the same as the money that I sold every month. Some of it would be tail end of packages I'd closed weeks earlier. The ratio held up either way though, I just didn't collect it all at once. And that gap between what you've sold and what you've collected in your account is the one thing that kills more small businesses than bad marketing does. So go back to that $400 a month that everyone wanted me to put into an index fund. Same money, but pointed at leads earned me multiples on that money within a 30-day period. And that is the difference between investing in the markets and investing in your own earning power when you're early in your journey. I want to close with a part that nobody ever tells you. There was a stretch at the $10,000 a month online that felt like I had a pretty normal schedule. I had gaps between clients and something that felt like a normal 9 to 5. It honestly is the best my life had felt in years. And then the business started to grow and I was at $15,000 to $20,000 a month. And I was right back to 6 to 8 sessions a day. No traffic this time, but back to back 8 sessions means 8 straight hours. But I was also doing 5 to 10 sales calls a week, which usually lasted 40 minutes to an hour because I never wanted to rush them. And on top of that, filming content and running my business. So the ceiling actually never went away. It just moved up a level and waited for me to get there. That's what I'd want someone to tell me at the bunk beds. Not that it doesn't work. It works, I'm proof. And it eventually led me to a $50,000 a year consulting contract, as well as a $40,000 a year life coaching client that I would have never have gotten. But every version has its own level of a ceiling. Your job is to make sure you identify it before it exhausts you. So, get the job, build the 10 to 20% surplus, don't invest it, deploy it into earning more money. Pick something that AI can't take and start cheaper than you would think and let your schedule dictate when you raise your prices. And then once you hit your ceiling, don't grind harder into it, change the structure. Now, if you want the other half of this, how that same $400 a month got me my first $100,000 saved on a $19,000 a year income, that video is linked right here. It's the same story, just an earlier chapter. I'll see you in that one.